Okay, good morning. This is Better Each Day. And if you're watching this on recording because you're a different place in the world or different priorities or obligations, then you want this to be something that you can take with you and make your world better by you becoming better each day. So we were just jumping into a conversation and finding out what everyone's doing. And yes, Sabrina still has that incredible, it's like a pink orange door or whatever behind. That's her color. We were talking about that last week. And Nisa, you're talking about a great trip that you had to Montenegro. So let's talk about some of those things real quick, and we'll get in because these are things that we're grateful for. That's one of the things we focus on becoming better each day is how can we continue to be grateful and have that right spirit and attitude, because it is the focus on the gratefulness that gives us that 30% boost in our performance, as opposed to looking around at all the things that are discouraging, I guess you'd say, in the world that certainly don't add value to us. So let's spend a few minutes talking about what we're grateful for. And so I'm going to jump back into a real quick discussion that I was having with Sabrina a second ago. And we're talking about how we got up early this morning, and then you get a lot of things done. In fact, Robin Sharma has a thing called the, I think it's the 99.
5 a.m.
It's
the
5 a.m.
1991.
Right. Yeah, he is. The book that he has written, and I think it's his podcast name too, is called the 5 a.m. Club. And for some reason, I was telling Sabrina, I woke up this morning, and for some reason, when you kind of have that night where you have a something coming up in the morning, and because I'm a planner, I don't do things by accident. And all, somewhere in the middle of the night, I remember, and I kind of came to, and I thought, okay, we've got our masterclass coming up today, and my mind wanted to start thinking about the planning process and what subjects we're going to cover today and what I've learned in the last week and what I want to share and how I'd like to. I'm always thinking about the format. Is there any way I can change or add it, or be more inclusive, and all these kind of things like that. And so I remember looking at my alarm that I have set up, and I always set up double alarms, just even though I've never, ever used it. I always do that because that's how I plan. I always make sure that if someone else is expecting me to be somewhere, there is no way I'm going to let somebody down. That's just part of my thing. So I looked at one of my alarms, and I was like, it's been a long week and a lot of great work done and a lot of things done well. And so and I'm like, wow, I think I need a little bit extra sleep. So I remember pushing my first alarm up later. And then somewhere along the way, I thought, okay, well, the alarm hasn't gone off yet, but I'm awake. If I'm awake, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. I know I'm not going to go back to sleep. So let's go ahead and get moving. And so I got up and I came into the office, and it was 4:40. And I'm like, wow.
Oh, that's a good number.
Yeah, it's a good number, but I'm like, it's way earlier than what I thought. I thought it was about maybe 5:40, almost 6. And I thought, oh, wow. And so I thought, well, now that I'm here, I know I'm focused. My mind turns on right away. I don't have to move it up. I'm just kind of instantly 100%. And so, Sabrina and I were talking about when you get that early morning burst, you can do the 90-90. Robin Sharma talks about take 90 days. Focus your first 90 minutes on the one thing that will move the needle biggest in your life. I love that program because when you come out early out of the gate, you get your coffee and the morning is quiet. There's no phone calls yet, even from other places in the world. I usually leave my phone systems off, just so that, but what it is, it's that early morning quiet time. To me, you get so much done and you get to concentrate. There's no disruptions. There's no, what I call squirrels. What is that cartoon where somebody says squirrel, and, his mind goes another way. So we do that so often. And so anyway, I was sharing a concept that Sabrina had mentioned. She does the same thing. And then you feel like you have this energy thing where your energy peaks and then it drops several hours into the day. And all the really successful people that I've ever had a chance to study, they all have, several things in common. And a lot of times it's these small things that are like the small hinges that move the big doors. And one of them is they all have a practice of taking either time out during a busy day to stop and meditate. and they just kind of rest and reset. They don't necessarily fall off to sleep, but then there's other ones that actually use the time to do a quick power nap. And that power nap may be 10, 15 minutes. Some of them maybe 30, but no one wants to go over 30 because then that causes you to go into your other sleep cycles and you don't recover as fast. So you really want to be able to drop off, catch a few weeks. And so it was, who was I talking about, Sabrina? That was the inventor that had the
Edison.
So Edison had this trick that he had a chair in his lab, and he was an inventor, and he was obsessed with all the things he was inventing. Many of them that we don't even remember. But if am I right that Edison created the incandescent light bulb? Am I right on that? I think so.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he's the guy that had 999 failures.
Well, there's somewhat controversy that Tesla did because Tesla worked for Edison.
Ah, okay. Well, then that might be the correct. But the point is there were so many things going on. Let's call it just in a lab. These guys were inventing at the day and time where they were coming up with stuff that to us feels like, SpaceX, Star Trek, what they were doing, whether it was electricity or light bulbs or right around the same time. Who was it that created the telephone? There was the telephone, Alexander
Bell.
Yeah,
Bell.
And then there was the other guy that created the radio. So we were transmitting radio waves for the first time, being able to collect them. So all these incredible things. So anyway, what Edison was doing is he'd feel his energy drop. So he'd sit down in this chair that had, a wooden chair with the two arms, and he'd put his hands, relax them on the arms of the chair. And then he'd take a spoon and he'd lay them across his finger, something like this. I'll use this pencil here. So it was like this. And so what he would do is he'd lay it down on the armrest, and then he would just kind of relax himself. I don't know if he's necessarily meditating or just breathing, but just relaxing into that feeling that he just needed a little bit of rest. And as soon as his mind dropped off into the deep sleep, we all have this chemical in our body that allows us to relax so that we don't move around in our dreams. So it's kind of not comatose, but you know what I mean. It's just this, a lot of our movements just freeze. And so what happens is his thumb would let go and the spoon would drop from the arm of the chair and hit the concrete floor and make that ding sound. That woke him back up. So he would take these multiple little naps all during the day. And in fact, I think I remember reading something about Edison one time, is that he used these little naps every day to shrink the amount of sleep time that he needed at night. And the sleep studies that I've done shows that is a, what do you want to call it? A recipe for sleep deprivation and mental disaster. It didn't happen for Edison. So the idea is small little naps along the way. So that's my contribution right there.
I think Einstein did the same thing. He slept 4 hours a night.
Yeah, a few hours, right. And then they took the little naps during the day that just helped you when you feel like your energy get to that peak and then you feel it to start valleying again. Then you can use that little break. I use it to go get a coffee. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a few minutes, and that's how I catch up on news, because I don't watch sensationalized news channels. I go to YouTube, and YouTube always plays in our, we want to call it our living room. That's, it's an open family area to the kitchen and everything. And so in the mornings, the first thing I do when I get up, I go to YouTube and I have one of y'all have seen links that I put on there. That's just some type of atmosphere. And right now I've got one that I just really, really love. It's a camera that's sitting on this lake, and in the background is Mount, I'm going to pronounce it, I think it's Shuksan, Shuksan, and it's this huge, massive mountain. I think it's 7,000 plus feet, but just the background of it with all this forest with colorful trees in front of it, walking forward even more onto this beautiful, just serene lake. And you can hear the birds and you can hear the wind blowing over and the ripple of the waters and stuff like that. So I leave that on in the morning because I have to have water, that nature type of thing. And so that's where I go to. So anyway, I'll leave it there. And sometimes Amy changes it for whatever her morning is when she wakes up later. But then sometimes she doesn't. So I'll come down later during my work day and, you know, make another coffee. And I got that little, so my good friend in Malibu, where I was down last week, he noticed that I really, really loved his coffee. And he had this little thing, I think it's called an Alicia. And anyway, the water fills up in the bottom instead of, and it's like a little tiny percolator, but it's for an espresso. And so anyway, it bubbles up and makes this really great cup of espresso. So he noticed how much I really enjoyed the coffee that he was had there. And it was a combination of the ocean coming underneath you and the great, just the good vibe, you know, and having the coffee. So anyway, 2 days later, I opened my front door and there's an espresso machine sitting on my front door. So, you know, taking that time to go down there, I'll just take a moment to sit down in front of, you know, just sit down in the living room. It's a different environment. I'm away from my phone and the office and all that kind of stuff. And it's a place for us to recharge. And I always try to remember to be thankful. And I'm not always good with it. I don't always succeed, but I try to put myself in that moment where I'm enjoying, you know, the flavor, not just the taste, but you want to take in, you know, the smell, all the senses that you can bring in, right? And then I'm looking at this great, you know, on the flat screen, I'm looking at this mountain, and I keep imagining, because it's only 8-hour drive from here. And I keep thinking, wow, I really need to take that journey and go up there and sit at this lake and see it for real. You know, I've been sitting here watching it now for, I don't know, months, let's say, since I discovered that. But those moments, that gratefulness, that taking the moment to be in the moment, to be in the now, to add all of those sounds, taste, smell, and that the gathering, it feels like to me, because I don't know, y'all tell me, don't you feel like you're like split so many different directions, fragmented during the day? Don't you feel that way? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so when you feel that, how do you regather from those fragments? Because the only way we can be more whole, to be able to give more, is not pieces of ourselves, because you're really not, I feel like it's the disruption and the distractions that kind of chop us into little pieces. And so we're used to that, and we feel kind of, well, like you need a nap. You feel like your energy gets dropped because your mind is going so many different directions, and mind doesn't just go in different directions. Then it starts prioritizing, because efficiency is writing a to-do list. Most don't do that. So if you write a to-do list every day, you're ahead of 90+% of the world, because everyone else is just willy-nilly. However things happen, they just kind of, they call it going with the flow, but that's not really what going with the flow is. It's chaos is what it is. And so the whole point of being able to do that is you know, going in different directions, is regathering yourself. I had this great connection yesterday. There was a gentleman that came by. The home that we live here is just 1 year old. And so they came by from the builder just to look over things and, you know, make sure all the structure and everything was all put together right. And so he happened to be here in the office, noticed my book back here, and struck up a conversation. Turned out he was a life coach as well. And I thought, wow. And so we ended up having this really incredible, deep conversation that lasted, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes unexpectedly. But you know, those are those what I call, people call them chance encounters, but I don't know if they're really chance encounters. I think that they are encounters that were
Coincidences.
Yeah, coincidences.
Life happening for you.
Right. So Nisa, tell us about your trip to Montenegro. How did it go? What was the Adriatic like?
Well, I just want to make a few comments on what you what you spoke about
Mhm.
just now. It's like, with the Edison thing, there was a guy called Jose Silva,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
you know Jose Silva?
Yes, I do. I
Mhm,
practice the silver
mhm.
mind method. Sure.
So Jose Silva did a similar thing.
Mm,
He had a ball in his hand.
okay.
So when he fell asleep, the ball would fall and that would wake him up.
Okay.
And the reason why he wanted to wake up is so that he can get into REM when you're going between awake and asleep.
Okay.
Your subconscious mind is more open to receiving. So then, because 95% of our actions are done with our subconscious mind,
Okay.
and only 5% of a conscious mind. That's why when we try to change a habit, it's so difficult,
Okay.
because we're doing it with our conscious mind, but 95% of it is the subconscious mind.
Makes
And
sense.
so what he'd do is he'd drop the ball. And so when you're in that waking and sleeping mode, you can then put or hypnotize or reprogram your subconscious mind to what you want.
Interesting. So he was
Yeah.
trying to catch the interval.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
So
Interesting.
not so much about the naps or that, but also at that point, your creativity is like
Yes.
really heightened.
Right.
So you find solutions and things like that. And just talking about having your coffee in nature.
Mhm.
I used to canoe down the Zambezi River in Zimbabwe,
Okay.
and so we basically would just have a sleeping bag and a mosquito net
Sure.
in the wild. Okay, on the we'd probably be on an island or a
Mm.
beach, because then we know we're not getting eaten up by the lions, but you can hear them very close by.
Wow.
Yeah, but the beauty about the canoeing safari is that the everything becomes lighter the day when the dawn of the day is lighter, okay, before the sun rises.
Right.
Okay, and so we would wake up with the dawn before the sun rises.
Sure.
Okay, and at that point, like, you're still half asleep, and the guide would be putting the coffee or the tea. I drink tea.
Sure.
So the coffee or the tea on the fire.
Sure.
Okay, and you'd be hearing the grunt of the hippo and the some of the birds or whatever it is.
Cool.
And you'd wake up and you're sort of still a little bit sort of drowsy and stuff, and then you have this tea or this coffee, and it's like a smoked tea or coffee, and
Right.
the surroundings, the sounds, the beauty, it's just so stunning, and you just enjoy that. And then nobody speaks because everybody's half asleep, and it's just a group of like 8 people or something like that.
Sure.
And you're going down the canoe, and then we'll pack up and we jump onto the Canadian style canoes. And then while we're canoeing, then the sun would rise, and
Oh.
then you find
So cool.
then you find the full flow of life happening,
Wow.
in the wild, the birds and then the elephants or whatever it is. You don't know what you're going to get because it's wild.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes you see nothing, and sometimes you'll see a
Sure.
crocodile or something like that.
Nice.
So it's those moments. And you even said you woke up at 4:40, which is very interesting, because last night when I went to sleep, I checked to see what time does the sun rise, and it was 4:44. I said, I gotta try to wake up at that time, but I have to admit I didn't.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
So you're
Yeah,
not in Montenegro right now. Where are you at right now?
I'm back in London.
Back in London.
So that's how I got, Wi-Fi and, everything working. So I'm back in London.
Yeah.
So also talking about Montenegro is I went with a plan to try to set my morning routine and, to do what I normally write and procrastinate on when I'm in London.
Okay.
And I went with a teammate. So I said to him, listen, when we go there, I asked him what his expectations are, and I wanted him to know what my expectations were of the trip, so that we don't upset each other, So
Good.
I actually said that I wanted to set out my morning routine, and would he be open? And luckily he was open to it, and he wanted to just relax and chill out and stuff like that, And I said, and we're going for a training, so we need to be present and be open.
Sure.
So every morning I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, having my nutrition,
Right.
and doing it for both of us.
Sure.
Having our lemon water, like half a pint of, actually a pint of lemon water, then having our tea with fresh ginger. And I brought the ginger and turmeric from London because I wasn't sure if I'd get it there.
Sure.
Fresh ginger, turmeric, cinnamon, black pepper, because black pepper brings out turmeric, the benefits of turmeric, and honey and lemon.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's what we have. And then go to the beach, and I would teach him yoga.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And after the yoga, we'd jump into the sea, which was cold.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I hate cold water with a vengeance. But I was doing it, and we were there while the sun was rising, and it was absolutely fantastic. Then we'd come home,
right,
have a smoothie,
right,
all the things like watermelon and spinach. Well, we couldn't get spinach. For some reason, we couldn't find spinach, but cucumber, whatever I could get. And I had some green tablets, so I just put the green tablets in.
Nice.
And we had that to start our day. Then I was quite happy with us doing whatever we wanted to do,
Right. Maybe we just...
And yeah. So yeah.
Someone parked out here.
So we were able to do that religiously for the 7 days that we were there, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I was still in that high spirit, and I did it for the first day. But the last 2 days, I haven't. And I realized that it's because there's too much stuff around me that needs to be done, and I'm not focused. So I even wrote my list of what I needed to get done, but I found myself hesitating also because the weather here can't make up its mind. So it's sunny 1 minute, cloudy, it looks like it's going to rain, all sorts of things. So I find myself thriving when I'm in a warm country,
Sure.
But when I come back, I find myself procrastinating or doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and not that
doing the really Well, talking about the coal stuff, we've got about 2 more minutes here, and then we'll hang on.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. That's what we wanted to do. I want to talk about this. So I'm giving the link that's in the chat that will go to the next 30-minute session.
Okay,
we'll talk about the compass. When I was in Malibu last week, so he's got a 2-tier place on Malibu, and my friend, I was hoping he was going to make it here today, but he stays super busy, but he's really organized. His upper tier, he Airbnbs, so he makes about $17,000 a month. I don't want to say that that's passive, because he does a lot of work with that, and he's like the ultimate super host that you've ever had. And he's got his own Zen practice there. He does Qigong. He has constant clients that are in his bottom tier with him that is actually a little bit larger. So in the bottom tier, in addition to, he's got a gym there that he does really different types of stuff. He does yoga as well. And he also has a dry sauna that he has in there with all the hot rocks. And get this, right next to the dry sauna, he's got a ice plunge.
Oh,
And so anyway, so I got up at, I couldn't go to sleep when I got there. So I knew I had about a 24-hour period of time that I needed to pack an entire week's worth of vacation time in it. And I hadn't seen my friend in almost 15 years, even though we're on social media all the time. And so I went from Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, where I was at with my new company, and another friend of mine, retired first sergeant in the Marine Corps, wanted to hang out with me. So I said, hey, come pick me up, and then we'll go to Malibu, we'll hang out, we'll have dinner, we'll sit on the porch, and literally the ocean is right underneath us, coming right on Malibu Beach. So amazing. And I had seen videos that Ken had sent me over time. And so anyway, so we're there. Our first sergeant has to roll back to his place in Los Angeles. So and Ken, of course, this is where he lives. So it's amazing for him, but it's not as amazing as it is for me, being, you know, a visitor coming there. And of course, ocean is just something that, you know, people say that because I'm a water sign, I'm Piscean, so that is something that really connects. So anyway, I'm taking all this in. So finally about midnight, I'm like, I need to get some sleep, otherwise I'm gonna be a zombie tomorrow. So I begrudgingly go and, you know, fall asleep on this like couch bed or whatever. And I think I get 4 hours, more of a nap. And as soon as I woke up at 4 o'clock, as soon as I realized where I was at, I ran right back out to the beach, right? Or out to the deck, because the water tide is so high, the beach only shows up a certain time of the day. And so Ken gets up, finds me sitting out there. We have this amazing coffee, you know, that I was telling you about, the espresso. And he's like, okay, are you ready? And I said, ready for what? You know, ready for anything. Let's do it. And he's like, well, we can't go down to the beach right now because the tide's still high. So let's begin our cycles into the sauna. So he had the sauna already kicked on. So it was 200 degrees, 225, something like that. So we jump in there. I think we did 20, maybe 25 minutes the first time. And he gets out first, and I see him, you know, this ice plunge was 34 degrees. And so it's a full body plunge. And the night before, we just come in, you know, we were tired. I'd been all week training. And so we just did a head plunge. We just put your head in the ice water just to kind of perk up your senses. So he was like, I see him in there, and he's doing, I don't know if you've ever done in yoga, where you do the alternating breathing, where you close one nostril and breathe through the other. Anyway, so he's doing that. And I see how much time he's over there that he's doing. I'm like, this is crazy. This guy's really good because he concentrated. So finally he goes out, he's got another infinity pool on the deck that when you sit down in, you just submerge yourself right to here. It's just the water, and it goes out into Malibu in the ocean and into the horizon. So it's just infinite. So that was the thing. That's where you actually recover out there. And so anyway, I see him jump out of the ice plunge. So I jump in there, and he's got a clock right in front of it, the second hand, and I make it 2 minutes my first time at 34 degrees. And yeah, so then I get out, and literally all my muscles in my whole body, I'm just shaking because of the extreme. And so then the second time we went back through the deal again, and we jumped back through the program. And this time I lasted 4 minutes, the 4-minute ice plunge. Amazing because of the extremes, you know, of going side to side with that. So good stuff to do. So we've got to jump to the next call just to make sure. We got a few folks that just joined us. So I want to make sure that everyone sees this, and we'll post it again. So we're getting ready to jump off this one and go to the next call. So use the link in the chat. Make sure everybody has it. I see Steiner, you just jumped on here from Norway. And I think
Prem from Zimbabwe.
Yes. Okay. Good to see you as well. That's your sister, isn't it, Nisa?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Good. Okay. All right. So if y'all can grab the link, we'll close off this session, and we'll go to the next session that will focus on the actual compass. And we'll take a little time to do some more gratefulness. See you there.